Good one. Greetings and good morning to all of you, wherever you are. What a wonderful day. Finally, the sun has come out. It is my pleasure to welcome you to another segment of Jesus Live. I'm OKDB, Dr. on your house summary. I'm the senior spiritual leader of Global Faith Ministries of Chiism, which is a ministry of Bodianism. And I'm a clinical life coach amongst all the other things that I do. I'm particularly excited to have this conversation with you today. It's a continuation of what we talked about last time, and that is faith pastors and their miracles and the impact that it has on people, on society. But before we go into it, let me ask you to please pay attention to how you can get in touch with us at 248-773-1857. You can visit our website, chiism.org. Lots of information about our organization. And also you can visit us on Facebook, Global Faith Ministries of Chiism, Bodianism. And our email, if you want to email us, thank you for some of the emails that I've gotten recently, chiismlive@gmail.com. And I want to make a very quick announcement, and that is that our Cheese service is on February 28th, 2021. It's going to be an exciting service because we're going to have participation from people in Nigeria. We're going to have drummers, we're going to have music. It's going to be quite exciting. You're going to kind of experience what a Chiist Guardian service is like. So I want to welcome you. And before we even bring our guests and my co-host forward, I just want to share this with you. This is the month of Ipiale on the African calendar. It is the month that is sort of like a farming period, for tilling of the farmland and for cropping of yams and tubers and vegetables. I always remember that when I was in Nigeria, when it was time for this exercise. You see people walking to the farm, and those were the days when life was simple. I mean, we're certainly not saying that life right now shouldn't be, 21st century. We appreciate that, but it is comforting to know that there was a time in our history where people were, not focused on frivolous things, but focused on survival, taking care of their community, taking care of their families. And that is what Ipiala time before. That's sort of like preparing for the planting season. And then we have virtues that in Chiism that we adhere to in this month of Ipiala, and that's tenaciousness and confidence and caring. A lot of times we pay more attention to ourselves that we don't even look at what the needs of our neighbors are. You know, whenever I get, I certainly can't fix everybody. Sometimes when I get emails from individuals who are in dire need, I don't turn my back because I can't. You know, I'm supposed to be caring. So whatever it is I can do is what I do, and whatever you can do this month, you should do. The energy that we focus on this month is the energy of the female energy, because it's the beginning of life, the beginning of preparation for farming. So the female energy takes is more apparent in what we do, or we include more femininity in what we do. And then the symbol for this month is corn. And we focus on some of the behavior that our ancestors would like us to extol, and that is we call it ancestral mandates, and that is to avoid pettiness, you know, ignorance and nonchalance. And ignorance is part of what is imperative that we talk about today, because as we talk about what the pastors are doing, they're able to do what they're doing because of the ignorance that we embrace. So this is a time for us not to be nonchalant and not to embrace ignorance. You know, you can't talk about what people are doing to you when you allow it. In that sense, you're being ignorant. And in terms of justice, we have to we should be concerned about our environment. We should be concerned about our animals. This is sort of the causes we're supposed to support this month. So, having said all of that, it is my pleasure, as always, to bring forward my co-host today, Dibia Ochwaja, UD. Okay, Dibia. Okay, Dibia. Go aburu Dibia now.
Okay, Dibia. Okay, Dibia Ochwaja. I salute. Yes.
Udo direge.
Okay, man.
Happy Piala,
man.
You know, we need to, and I'm excited about what we're talking about today, obviously. And that part of the virtue that we are supposed to pay attention to is the ignorance. And I'm afraid that many of us who are succumbing to ignorance are allowing people who play on it to win.
Yeah.
You know, what we're talking about today is the false prophets. You know, who are they? These people are not coming to take care of you know, they talk about their shepherds, you know, they're here to take care of the sheep, but that's not what they are here for. Instead, they're here to lead the flock, and I wrote it down so people can actually read it. They're here to lead the flock as a shepherd, but that's not what they're doing. This is why it's so dangerous when we are ignorant and allow them to lead us astray. They're dangerous. False prophets may look like shepherds, but inside they are ravenous wolves. Their goal is not to feed the sheep, but to feed off the sheep. That's the danger, to feed off the ignorant. And when people don't realize that it is their ignorance that is allowing these pastors to do it. You see, I'm going to say this. Don't blame people for what they do to you when you allow it. Absolutely. If we're not supposed to be ignorant in the month of Ipiale or any other time, then we cannot embrace every little thing that's brought to our attention by people who want to use us. I want to bring to the stream our guests, special guests. It's always a pleasure to bring Nnamdi. Nnamdi Ndewo. Ndewo Kedu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about what these pastors are doing. And I tend to focus on African pastors. And this time, I want to focus on South Africa, because South Africa is where we have the bulk of, we have it all throughout Africa, you know. I'm not just going to say South Africa, but I'm picking on the pastors in South Africa and what they're doing. So what I'm going to do, I welcome three of you, but what I want to do is I want to play a video. And so it's important that people understand it's not just us talking about these things. Everybody's talking about it because many people understand the damage being done to the continent by these individuals. So let me play this video. And as you watch this video, at the end of the video, we can discuss it. That sound okay?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good? Okay, very well then.
Yeah.
These animals, God made them for us to eat.
Let me start it from the beginning. Here we go.
In 2014, Pastor Daniel Lesego made headlines when he told congregants to eat grass because it would bring them closer to God.
Did anyone die when they eat grass? No. Did anyone die when they drink petrol? No. Those who drink or eat, they never lay a charge or complain. Those who did not and were never there, they are complaining.
And then there was Panuel Mguni, dubbed the Snake Pastor. The Soshanguve-based prophet made headlines in 2016 for feeding his followers snakes and rats.
These animals, God made them for us to eat. Amen.
During that same year, Incredible Happenings Ministries Pastor Paseka Mutswaneng, known as Pastor Mboro, was alleged to have claimed he'd been to heaven. But he's since denied the allegations.
The issue I went to heaven. Yeah. I did selfies. I'm teaching that in this church.
Timothy Omotoso is a flamboyant Durban-based pastor of the Jesus Dominion International Church. He was arrested in 2017 on charges related to the contravention of the Sexual Offences Act. While Omotoso denies the charges, his alleged victims tell a different story.
He put his penis in between my thighs and he shoved in between my thighs. I was a virgin at the time, so he took caution and he fell asleep.
Another controversial pastor is the wealthy prophet Shepherd Bushiri. He once sold tickets to a gala dinner in his honor for between 1,000 rand and 25,000 rand. Major One, as he's called by his followers, was recently arrested, along with his wife, on fraud-related charges. His followers believe he's innocent.
We believe that our father is innocent until the court of law. So our Baba has been released for him to go on and address his congregants. We are waiting for him.
Last month, Pastor Aflagao made headlines when a video of him allegedly resurrecting a man went viral on social media. He's since changed his tune, saying the man had been alive all along.
I think we've reached a stage where we can say religion, especially Christianity, is in a state of crisis in South Africa, and we need urgent answers. And I'm hoping the 6th Parliament will table this as one of its first issues that need tackling.
It remains to be seen whether the 6th Parliament will be able to deal with this thorny issue. That's because some of the controversial pastors are believed to be close to high-profile government officials.
Well, where do you start?
I don't know. You know, two things came to mind in the video. One of them was what you said, right? You cannot blame people for what they're doing to you when you allow them to do it to you. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, in the video, the lady who was narrating the video said that it was difficult to prosecute these pastors because of their close relationship with government officials, right? And the reason why you have these relationships is because the pastor grooms his flock and focuses their political allegiance to whoever the sponsor in government is or whoever they are. So you can see how they work hand in hand to mesmerize the flock to have a certain point of view promoted by the pastor that will be beneficial to those in politics. That's how it works. It works the same way in Nigeria. The pastor tells his flock who he thinks should be in power or who he thinks that they should vote for, because according to the pastor or Mr. Prophet or Mrs. Prophetess, the God ordained this particular politician as the chosen one to, lead the people in government. So it's just that kind of relationship where when you look at the future of Africa, you say to yourself, are you telling me that those people in the crowd that believe this kind of nonsense are the ones that are going to chart the future of this country? Are there going to be some of the people that may end up in government, if at all? Or they're just there to be used as a tool, just like in the United States, the president or the former president used people in QAnon and people on the extreme right, for his own political ambitions and to keep himself in power. So it's just difficult for me to, fathom what's going on, because a lot of these people, they just didn't start believing in these, accounts by the pastor. These people were groomed, when they were born by their parents or grandparents, and they were groomed in school, and they were groomed in church. And so by the time they grow up, you got nothing left upstairs, but people that are susceptible to these kinds of comes. And then when you add to the fact that, economics plays a role in just how susceptible the masses are to these con men, and it's just, maybe Nandi can add a little bit to it. I'm still trying to absorb some of this thing, because common sense is not as common as we think it is. And it seems to me that Christianism has sapped the last vestige of common sense left in a whole lot of people of African ancestry. I mean, for any one of these people to believe that the pastor raised somebody from the dead, I'm sure that none of them is asking, how long has this person been dead? Did rigor mortis set in? How do you bring somebody who is dead for 7 hours, for a day, 2 days, 4 days, a week, depending on how long, they claim the person has been dead? How do you bring that person back to life? Scientifically, it is not possible. And so you can understand, like in any other world religion, religion has to do with a lot of supernatural stuff, a lot of magic kind of things, a lot of things that are not possible in the normal realm of things. And, religion specifically, or particularly Christianism in today's world, it's built on this witchery and wizardry and voodoo, if you want to call it that. If you look in the Bible, it's magic. Christ walked on water. He fed 5,000 people with a loaf of bread. He turned water into wine. One of them was that Daniel was in the lion's den and wasn't eaten by hungry lions. Job found himself in the stomach of a whale. I mean, think about that. Who in the world is going to survive being in the stomach of a whale? All those things that are magical, all those things that are impossible, is adopted by Christianism and presented to the world as God's work. Yet in African traditional religion or spirituality, when you talk about the debians and you talk about metaphysics, they look at you as if you're talking about devil worship, but they're involved in the same thing. I mean, what is the difference? What's the difference? A loaf of bread made in America and a loaf of bread made in Nigeria is still a loaf of bread. It's the same thing. So what is it? Religion is about magic in today's world. It's not the definition of religion, but when it comes to religion, everything about religion has to do with somebody doing something that is impossible. Now, these people come out here and claim that they're prophets. If a person who is regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God, is a prophet. And these guys come from anywhere and claim that they're prophets. In the Bible, the prophets in the Bible are people like Moses. So they're putting themselves on the same level as Moses. But what I understand about these prophets in the Bible is that none of them were asking you to pay tithes. None of them were asking you to help them buy a plane to fly around the world in luxury. None of them lived in mansions. All these preachers that claim to be prophets are the opposite of those prophets that you find in the Bible. So I don't understand how you gel the two. People don't think, the mind is gone, the future of Africa is bleak, because this is what the masses think about. While people in other countries are developing, things in science, medicine, technology, we're going to church on Sunday. That's what we're doing. As opposed to being able to handle our problems ourselves and finding solutions to our problems, solutions from within, we look up to this magical stuff to solve our problems. We are a reflection, or should I say, our leadership, including the prophets, including those in government, they're a reflection of who we truly are today. What you see on stage, those people that are eating grass, as I look at the video right now, these people that believe that somebody was raised from the dead are no different from the pastor. He's just the guy that just decided to be in the forefront to make money off of the ignorance of the masses. We're ignorant. Stop.
That's it. And that's why this month is really very important. Month of EPR. We are supposed to not be ignorant. Let me bring Nnamdi in. Nnamdi, what are your thoughts about what you just watched?
Okay, first of all, I would just like to say that the first pastor, he's insulting that hat, that white hat, sir. Now I feel some type of way about wearing this hat because he's wearing one. Number two, the fact that he has people eating grass. Can't you just have people eat a salad? That comes from the earth as well, right? From the last time I checked. They don't have to go outside to eat grass. If they want their greens, get a salad. That promotes healthy living. That promotes taking in, from the earth. All jokes aside, this is very interesting. This is sale. These are salesmen. These are religious and spiritual salesmen. And the interesting thing about it is they are still selling something that really has nothing to do with who they are and who we are culturally. You have these individuals that are holding on or looking to hold on to something that can bring them closer to something spiritually, when they know they can actually get those contributions, those spiritual contributions from their own people. But for some reason, we have been well trained to look at someone else's belief as our own dogma. Someone else has come into our own house and has convinced us that their God, their way of belief, their geography, their basically everything that has to deal with something else is something that we're supposed to adhere to in order for our own spiritual salvation. As I continue to look at this, the belief of live and let live is so it's grand in Shiism. It should be grand everywhere. But I'm seeing these individuals as people that basically just live by an idea of, we live off of your life. because you let us live off of your life. They're taking everything, their sense of belonging, their sense of understanding, their common sense. As Divya said, it's not common, but they're looking to hold on to something. All of this is just sales. Like, look, this guy rises up from that. And just like Divya said, did anyone ask questions? If you're talking about raising someone from the dead, from that casket, how long has he been dead? Did they open up the casket of someone that they knew for a fact was actually deceased? Did they pull the casket from the ground? Sometimes you have to ask questions, even if you believe in things that we can't really see. I mean, there's certain things that we can't see, and we know for a fact that it's there. The sun is up in the sky, and we can feel the heat. We can breathe the air. We can see the trees blowing, and we know that the wind is there. At the same time, you still have to have some type of common sense when it comes down to identifying what these things are in order for you to make it more realistic. But this is, I'm sitting here looking like, look, just they're sitting here eating grass. All he had to do was just give everybody a bowl of lettuce.
You know what? Look,
some tomatoes.
Nnamdi, I'm still trying to get serious about this whole thing. But the video, when I'm watching it, it's like this comedy show. I mean, you're looking at people that are sitting there chewing grass, right? And none of these people ever ask themselves a question. Did the dog pee on that grass? Did the cow pee on it? Did they take a dump on that grass? Exactly what am I eating? What is it? How wretched is my life that I have to eat a rat? Let me tell you something about eating rats, okay? And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a child of the Nigerian Biafran War. And we used to have difficulty getting food, and we were encouraged to eat rodents or whatever it is that we, can get our hands on. What do you call it? Termites. We ate that. We ate grasshoppers. But one thing we did when we got the birds or the rats or the termites, I even used to set traps. I was only 8 years old with an uncle of mine, and we used to catch these bush rats. But when you catch the rats, you cut the stomach open, you remove the intestines, you prepare it, then you roast it, and it becomes just as clean as a cow meat or chicken or whatever, and we ate it. But these guys are eating raw mice with the stomach still inside of it, with the feces still inside of that rat. How messed up does your mind have to be that you don't even think about your own health, and you believe blindly that you could eat a snake, you could eat a rat, you could eat all manner of crap that the preacher tells you to eat without at least even trying to prepare it. And then you have a nerve to look at African spirituality or some of the processes that DBS have to go through to be able to determine what's wrong with a person, what's wrong with their patient, and trying to figure out a way to make the patient better, both physically and mentally. You turn around and you look at what we do as Africans as something that is evil, something that is unclean. And yet, when you watch these videos, you see people involved in all manner of foolishness. It's almost totally overwhelming. And then you look at the guy laying on the ground with the preacher stomping on his stomach. I'll tell you one thing, a lot of the people that we see, except for those people that are eating grass, a lot of the people that we see, those people that are, that are being jumped on by the preacher, some of those people that are, getting up from a casket, talking about the man is dead, and the preacher is, just raised the guy from the dead, and the lady with the short arm, whose arm grew back after the preacher prayed in front of the flock in church. These are just actors. They're just actors. If you walked up in there and said, hey, there's something wrong with me, Pastor, can you preach? Can you fix it? I could tell you this, if they don't recognize who you are, they won't do anything. They will not do anything because they look at you as somebody who's trying to expose them. Most of the people that you see acting the fool, the guy on the floor, they're just actors. And what really makes it sad is that we have been groomed as Africans through colonization, through slavery, through our great-grandparents who passed on the madness to our grandparents, who passed on the madness to our parents, who passed it on to us, the schools that we attended. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. You cannot question anything. These people are all programmed. So by the time they become adults, living a very wretched life, it's over for them. They don't have the capacity to ask questions. And even those of us that are not economically destitute still buy into these things. I've had conversations with doctors who still believe that Adam and Eve were the first people on earth, and they're scientifically trained. Going to Harvard didn't change anything because the doctor has been groomed from birth to be stupid, to reject themselves, to look upon African spirituality, religion, as something that is inferior. This is inferiority complex. And
I want to share.
Yeah.
I want to add that there's another video I want you to see. And this video is a young African speaking about what all of this is doing to Africa. And I want you to comment on what he's saying. Obviously, everything you and Nnamdi have talked about today, based on that video, it's not just shared by you.
Yeah.
There's so many people who are so emotional about what this is doing. Now, this young man, he's a Christian, but he's talking about what his people are doing, his Christian faith, what they're doing to the people. So I'm going to bring that. And one of the scenes here that really upsets me, well, I'll let you see it.
Which is worse than cholera, which is worse than malaria, which is worse than HIV, which is even worse than Ebola. This epidemic is called religion. Religion has caused many problems in Africa. We see Muslims and Christians fighting each other. We see families falling apart because of religion. Siblings not talking to each other. Children not talking to their parents because a false prophet gave a false prophecy telling people that their mother is the cause of their downfall. And their mother wants to kill them. Your own mother who carried you in her womb, sacrificing literally everything to take care of you. If she wanted to kill you, she could have done that while you were still a fetus. But you believe a pastor more than your own mom who loves you unconditionally. I see people dying day after day because a pastor told them not to take their pills and that they should fast and pray and that everything will be okay. Meanwhile, this pastor takes his family to the best doctors in the country. I see people buying anointing oil, holy water, handbands and stickers for protection. Meanwhile, your pastor is walking with bodyguards, with full security in his home. I've seen poor people giving these fake pastors all the money they got, and they will go home empty-handed and hungry, starving themselves and their own children, while these so-called pastors driving expensive cars and live in mansions. The Bible says, lack of knowledge, my people perish, and it is true. People are literally perishing because we've thrown away knowledge, wisdom, common sense, and understanding. We keep following these con artists, these tricksters, these false prophets like sheep to the slaughterhouse. People are doing dumb things, being physically and emotionally abused right in front of the congregation, and at times even on national TV. It's very appalling some of the things that these preachers ask their members to do. Some ask them to drink detergents, some kiss and touch their members sexually, some even go to the extent of body slamming their members, all in the name of healing and deliverance. It's about time people wise up and stop falling for this scam. Let's stop worshiping these so-called men of God and worship God himself, because Jesus came to die so we may have a relationship with him. And now that we may have a relationship with him through other people, he died so that we may become his friend. The Bible says Elijah was a man just like us. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. The same power that lives in Elijah is the same power that rose Jesus from the grave, and that same power lives in you and I. So stop moving from one pastor to the other, asking them to pray for you, asking them to deliver you, and pray over yourself. Pray over whatever situation that you're going through, and God will surely hear you. If only you have faith in him, if only you trust and obey him, nothing should stand in your way. Shalom.
Who wants to? Who wants to start?
Look, I know Nnamdi's gonna have a whole lot to say about this, so I'm just gonna say something and then let it just take it where you want to, Nnamdi. The great Ochozo. Do your thing. But here's the thing. Africa, religion. First of all, the greatest defense you have against imperialism is culture. And once you don't have it, then you're susceptible to these kinds of abuse, where you have been convinced from birth that you don't have the power to change your condition here on earth, that only this magical religion will save you. You don't see this prevalent in all other world religions. It's really Christianism, and specifically the Protestant movement, modern day church. I call it modern day witchery, because they're all about witchery and wizardry and all that kind of stuff. You have to be so far gone in your mind that you allow self-abuse by these so-called prophets or pastors, something that you will not allow in the street. If you were not in the church, you will not let anybody pick you up and body slam you. But once you get into the four walls of a church, once they begin to mesmerize you with the wealth that they've accumulated from your own effort and contribution to their lives, you're hooked. You believe that at some point in your life, you're going to be able to drive a Rolls Royce when you have no business plan, or you have not done anything in your life that may be able to afford you that kind of lifestyle. What is success anyway? I define success as your ability to raise a cohesive family where your children become upright and contributing members of the society. That's what success is. That's where your wealth lies. It doesn't lie in the Rolls Royce. It doesn't lie in the big mansion that you have. Those things are material things. They just die. Your legacy is more important. And your legacy has to be positive. You don't have to be a legacy like Adolf Hitler. He's going to live forever, but he's going to live in infamy. We are zombies. Africans are. A lot of people are not going to like what we're saying here, but that's too bad. You may not like what I'm saying, but when you look at that video, you will find that everything that I'm telling you is fact. The abuse that you receive in church, outside that church, you will never let anybody kick your wife in the stomach, pick up your wife or your mother or your father and body slam them. You will never leave that church and just go out on your own and start eating grass. You will never lay in the street or in somebody else's home and let them stomp all over you. You have been convinced that the church is your salvation. You have been convinced that it's okay for a white preacher or reverend to whoop you in church, an abuse that you will not tolerate outside of it. You wouldn't let anybody whoop you. You've been convinced that it is not important what you do while you're alive. But that what is important is for you to be able to take this abuse so that when you die, you cannot experience this heaven that is outside of reality. Heaven is right here on earth. The work that you put in is going to bear fruit if you put in any work at all. What you do with your life while you're on this earth is more important than a belief that when you die, you're going to end up somewhere with a pearly gate, where the road is paved with gold. Nobody has ever been to heaven or hell to come back to tell you what it feels like or how beautiful it is out there. This is just crazy, magical speculation, because the truth of the matter is we don't really know what happens to you when you die. Only the dead knows that. I believe in spirits. I believe in ghosts. I've seen that. So I know there's an afterlife. I know it exists because I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've seen ghosts before. I'm a priest. I know. I don't deny that reality. But nobody has ever died and come back to tell me what it feels like or what heaven looks like. We're just believing in fairy tales. We are told that we should just make sure that whatever it is that we do, that it has to prepare us for this journey in the afterlife. Every religion has that. But the difference here is the fact that because of the ignorance, the pastor and the preacher become rich, become wealthy, have access to all the women that they can get their hands on while their husbands are in the pew, mesmerized and allowing this self-abuse. The lady that took her underwear off in church for whatever reason, or the lady that is over there being sexually abused by a pastor, do you think that they will allow somebody to do that to them in the street outside of the church? The church is not a sacred place. The church is where you are funneled into so that your mind can be sapped of any reasoning so that you become susceptible to putting money into the coffers of the preacher.
Dibia.
Yeah.
You hit something on the head, and I'm going to invite Namdi to come to say something. But I just want to say one thing. When people don't understand it, they need to understand that the church, as it currently is practiced in many churches, is a cult.
It is.
It is a cult. If you don't understand what a cult is, you should definitely go and read up on what a cult is. A cult is when you've been conditioned that a certain way of doing things is the only right way, and you must not question. You must accept it, even if it's abusive to you. You're convinced that if you embrace the negativity, the ugliness, that goodness will come of it. But that's not how it works. Goodness does not come out of ugliness. Intentional ugliness. As you look at this video, one place that I want to comment on, and then I invite Namdi to make a comment, is what exactly is this white priest doing? What is he? What is that? What is he saying to these Black people who are sheepishly standing before him to be whipped? Into what? Into what? Whipped to heaven? What exactly is that man doing? And what about it is so exceptional and positive in the minds of these people that they stand in line to be whipped because he's the man of God, because he's the man of God, because they've been convinced that the man of God will never hurt them. The man of God will never hurt them. His role is to make us better, even if we have to be hurt in the process. It's a cult. It's a mind game. The biggest psychologists in the world are these pastors. I'm a psychologist. I know. It's a con game what they're doing to them. The role of a psychologist is to help you to find your way out of your condition. But these con artists, when they find ignorant people who don't want to do the work, then they convince you that the way out of your condition is through them. Now, I'm going to bring you in at this point. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing here?
You're absolutely right when it comes down to it, seeing it as a cult. But the interesting thing about it is this is a cult that's transpiring its thoughts and its philosophies through generations through the youth, from the youth to young adulthood to old adulthood. But one thing that I find really interesting, and for the viewers that are seeing this from Nigeria and any other part of the world, especially in Africa, anyone that's actually seeing this, is something very interesting about this whole thing that we're seeing. For those that are aware of slavery, the transatlantic slave trade and slavery in the US, you're probably going to understand exactly where I'm going with this. For those that are not familiar with that, with what actually happened during the slave period, transatlantic slave period, even what happened in the Bahamas, Haiti, the slave ports, but mainly and predominantly in Europe and in America. This is the exact same type of stuff that would happen on the plantations. People will be beaten, whipped, accosted, lynched, raped, and it would be happening in front of the other enslaved Africans. And most of that was to remove that idea that you hold any power and to implant a new idea that we hold the power, we can make the changes, we can either improve your life or we can reduce it to rubble. And this is exactly what these pastors are doing. The interesting thing about these pastors is they come from the same place that most of these mentally enslaved Africans are coming from. But they have an understanding that, number one, I guarantee you, 99% of them do not believe in anything that they're actually doing. They don't believe in it, but they know that it's a business. Slavery was a business. So as we mentioned in our previous conversation and the previous show that we had last week, you went from the shackles on the wrist to the shackles on the mind. But now you have individuals that have the ability to take full advantage of this and utilize it to their own benefit, because they're coming from pretty desolate environments and conditions themselves. But they have an understanding that the minute they see how many people are putting their hands up in prayer for other individuals, especially those from the West, they start recognizing that, oh, well, we can take advantage of this and we can look into everyone's pain. We can look into everyone's fear. We can look into everyone's gullibility. We can look into this and we can take full advantage of this. And that's exactly what they're doing. The thing is, for some reason, we just seem to still not believe in ourselves enough at all, because generationally, the concepts of cultural strength have been eradicated. And the only thing that has been put into place is Abrahamic religions, and the extremist versions of those are adopted. The beliefs are adopted by those on the continent because they don't really have anything else to look up to, or should I say they refuse to, because it's easier to actually see salvation in individuals that are doing this because they have been, what's been mentally implanted has been the idea that you have to do this, you have to believe in this. And whatever the white man instilled in us, instilled and took from us and then instilled, is what we're actually supposed to believe. So you see in this video, you see this white man whipping them. Literally, it's like slave whipping them, and they're coming and shaking his hand. If the white man can do this so gingerly and also without a problem, and these individuals are standing around and they're allowing it to happen. Why are they allowing it to happen? Because if you look at history, especially American history, we have basically been treated the exact same way. Whipped as slaves, treated as dirt, and the good ones are invited into the house. Why the bad ones that are treated like dirt stay on the plantation? So they pick the cotton, and at the same time, they're still praying, Master, please, please let me have them scraps. And this is exactly what we're seeing. This is basically a repeat of history.
That's right.
From slavery, physical slavery, now it's spiritual slavery.
Spiritual.
And now you have these Africans that are basically they're the slave masters.
That's right.
They are.
Oh my God, what a point. Right there. Right there. The slave masters are now the Africans themselves.
Yes.
Now, can I just take you here? And that is, to me, probably the most disturbing aspect of this video is when these look at this, okay? This pastor, okay, is kicking a woman who's pregnant. That's a pregnant woman. You're beating a pregnant woman. And look, that's a pregnant woman. You are pushing against her stomach. Look, I know when I was pregnant, the pain of pregnancy, I can't even begin to imagine what these women were going through. And what was the objective? Perhaps the woman complained that she was having some discomfort. And if I put my foot on your stomach, it's going to heal it. And then you see this man showing them how to have intercourse, doggy style, in church. So for all that, and then you pick up a woman who is not well. Obviously, she's ill. So when you break her spine by throwing her against the chairs, somehow she will be well.
Look.
You know, I don't understand why my people, you know, I say my people. The reason why we're showing these videos is to let you know this thing is real. It's not cheesem sitting here and just talking stuff. This is real. This is not even half of it. We go to church 7 days a week. What is it we didn't learn last Sunday that we will have to learn through the week? What is it exactly that we couldn't have preached on Sunday, and then the rest of the week you go to work? You've got mass on Sunday, then you got revival on Monday, you got love on Tuesday, you got this, you got all week long you're in church, you're not working. You are praying for manna from heaven. You're praying for miracles. You're not working to create the miracles. These pastors, people, listen. You don't have to believe what we're saying today. That's why I put these videos in front of you. We didn't make these videos. This is observation that other people are making. You cannot continue. Now I'm going to read this, and Ochaja, I'll let you speak in a minute. Look at this. Half of these people are walking. The pastor is riding what that kind of car is? Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah. Rolls Royce.
and you're walking, maybe you have a scraggly little bicycle to get to his church. Who do you think is making him rich? Every day that you go to church on Monday, on Sunday, until etc., you go all the way through the week, he's making money. Somebody sent me something quite interesting. I think it was Charles Ikuna Charles that sent me a poster of a pastor who says that she is going to pray away spiritual elimination of your debt. You are eliminating her debt. She's praying for her own spiritual elimination of her debt, because when she comes there, all that money you're giving from Monday to Sunday, it's making her rich. My people, let me read this particular one from Come On Your Hand, then Twanja, you make your comments. He says, the deceit and level of impunity now is high in African Christianity, all in the name of eradicating poverty and breaking of family causes, right? They are being told by their respective church heads, whom they now call daddy, papa, and mommies in the Lord. It's so pathetic. That's true. That's true. This is where their mind is now. This is where the African mind is. Look at this man. Look at all these people laid on the floor, allowing somebody to break their spine. And you know you don't have the hospitals to take care of them if they get hurt. Dibia, please.
Well,
go on.
There's one of the anchors of Christianism is do as I say, not as I do. Our supporters during the advent of the Catholic Church, the godfather of this madness, our supporters are going to be known as Catholic Christians. As for the others, they will suffer the punishment that we shall inflict ourselves. This was in 380 AD. The Pope became infallible. And the metamorphosis is the preacher is now infallible. We have a saying that if you take a people's concept, their traditional and primordial concept of God away from them, they become destitute, stupid, and violent, and will forever justify their worth by standards that are not of their own. That's where we are right now. As I mentioned earlier, culture is your protection against imperialism. As Ochozo Nnamdi mentioned, they've taken the chains from your limbs and put it around your head. We now see no value in our African spirituality, in our history, in our Africanness. We feel inferior. As long as it's not African, it must be superior. That's how we operate now. It is no longer important whether you have a business plan. Prosperity religion of today, which right now is just so prominent, they have a very high profile in Africa, says that God only blesses you when you got money. God doesn't bless you because of health, doesn't bless you because of anything else. None of these preachers are parading talking about the fact that, look at me, I'm in good health. Look at me, my son is a lawyer, my son is a doctor, my son is this, my son is an engineer. I have all this success academically, and otherwise my children are upright members of the community. No, it's about the Rolls Royce, the mansion, how much jewelry the preacher is wearing, telling you that there's some kind of demon inside of you, so I'm going to have to whip it out of you. Just like Nnamdi mentioned, in the slave days, they were whipping everything out of you. Your name used to be Kunta Kinte, but now you're Toby. Your name used to be Ngozi, which means blessing in Igbo language. But you no longer want to be called Ngozi, you want to be called blessing, even though Ngozi and blessing mean the same thing. But in your mind, you are more of a human being. There's a little bit more respect to your person if you answered blessing, because it's English. It is not African. If it's African, it must be evil. You have people that gather in church every Sunday that have no sense of self, have no pride in who they are as Africans, have no idea about what nation formation, nation building, and nation management is all about. You have people that want things, their conditions to change, but they are more satisfied or content with building a castle on sand. We have no anchors. Africa has no future as long as these creatures, this Christianism is proliferating all over Africa. Even those people in government are just as messed up in their minds as the flock. Before you run for political office in Nigeria, you're either a Muslim or you're Christian. If I was to run for political office in Africa and say that I'm a traditionalist and I believe in African culture and African spirituality, I stand no chance winning any election anywhere in Nigeria. I have to belong to the two religions that justified my enslavement in the first place. Islam was enslaving Africans before the white man even showed up in the southern, the coast of Africa, West Africa. They have sold over 40 million slaves before the European even showed up, before the Portuguese came. We see no value in ourselves. And as long as we don't see any value in our Africanness, this is going to continue to happen. These people don't believe that they're responsible for their condition. They don't believe that they have the power to change their condition. The lady who is allowing somebody to step on her stomach, maybe it's her first pregnancy, and maybe she doesn't understand that being pregnant comes with a lot of discomfort. It's part of life. The preacher is not going to stop you from hurting because he's got his foot in your stomach, trying to exorcise some kind of demon from your belly. That demon obviously is your child.
Oh.
If you lose that baby,
oh my God,
discomfort and pain will stop. So maybe that's why you're in church. Maybe that's why you believe that the preacher putting a foot on your stomach is going to stop your suffering, because maybe you end up with a miscarriage. And for the lady over there, bent over and having somebody sexually abuse her in public, this is something that she could never do in a marketplace. She could never bend over in a marketplace and let somebody abuse her if she doesn't believe that the abuser has the power of God. Her mind is gone. Every single person that you see in church, the lady being thrown on the chairs as if she's in a wrestling match, these people have no common sense. They don't believe that being African has any value. They believe that the only way for them to succeed in life, the only way for their sufferings to go away, is for them to surrender to their abuser, who claims to be a prophet, an intermediary between them and the Almighty. Understand? That's what this is really all about. The fact that, number one, your mind is enslaved, the chain is up there, you suffer from Stockholm syndrome, you are willing to defend the same person that is abusing you. And you don't have any authority that you could complain to, because those people in authority are just like you. They are mesmerized. And not only that, it seems that in African politics today, they need the preacher so that they could get their hands on your votes.
On your votes. There you go.
And that's it. And that's just what this is all about.
You know what? Somebody did ask, this is so utterly pathetic. What can be done to stop these travesties from happening? Here's the God's honest truth. The God's honest truth is this. The individuals who do what they're doing, they are in line with the governing bodies in these countries. So it's rather difficult, as one of the videos indicated. It's rather difficult for you to stop something that the government is a part of. It's difficult. It becomes our responsibility as Dibia Otrada had indicated, they use the pastors to get to their congregation. And as long as they get to the congregation, they get votes. So it's not in their best interest to go after these pastors. So you have to now be educated. One thing that Chiism does not do, and nobody who has watched this show can say that what we have done here is try to fool you. Everything we talk about is that the power is within you. That is our responsibility. For those who don't know, our responsibility is to remind you. Right where you are is the divine mind, Chineke, or whatever you call Chineke in your native language. You don't need to be abused by anyone. You don't need to subject yourself to some of these dehumanizing experiences in the church. If you're going to be in the church, hold your pastor responsible. If you believe that Chineke is good, then expect them to be good. Don't expect them to throw you around or kick your wife in the stomach and you standing there, man. What, man up, for God's sake. Another man is kicking your pregnant wife in the stomach. You stand there and watch a man, so-called man of God, abuse your pregnant wife, kill your child in your wife's stomach, and that's godly. You watch a white man from wherever he came from, like he said, repeats slave practices, and you shake his hand and you're grateful. That's madness. You won't even believe it. Somebody has said that these people are stupid. They're stupid. That level of stupidity is cultivated by these pastors. They are good pastors out there. Let us do a disclaimer here. There are some really good pastors out there that are doing wonderful things. So I'm not going to condemn everyone. But you need to check your pastor out. When he starts to flog you, take that dagger and stick and whip his butt. Get your husband, your wife, your brother, whip his behind. If I was in that church, my brothers, my son, that pastor will be on the floor getting his butt whipped. Kicks, and you, African people, you're watching, you are there watching a pregnant woman being kicked in the stomach and you do nothing. Yeah, we believe it. It's stupidity at the highest level. We're not here to say that all pastors are bad. Otraja.
Yeah.
Dibia. We're not saying all pastors are bad, are we? No.
No. I mean, there are pastors that are doing good things, right? But they're in the minority. They're in the minority. I went to a Catholic school, okay? So I've seen both sides of it. But I can tell you that the majority of them, and I'm not mincing words here, and this is all up right in your face for those of you that are still susceptible to this kind of game. Most pastors are corrupt. Let me tell you something about this thing. It's a business. Without money, you cannot evangelize. You have to do whatever is necessary to mesmerize your flock so you could empty their purses. And women, for the most part, are susceptible to this because they're emotional. They're emotional creatures. They're more susceptible to this than men are. If you look at the videos, some of the, a pastor is not going to walk up to a man and tell him to take his pants off so he could grab his crotch. This gives the pastors, number one, access to your purse, your money. Number two, access to the women. Touching the woman's breasts, bending her over in church, having her remove her underwear. You're not going to tell him to take his underwear off.
Abuse.
It's abuse. It gives these deviant pastors, whatever they're not even pastors, whatever it is they call themselves, access to women. That's all this is about. It's about money and it's about power, and power gives you access to women. The what do you call them? The con man in the pulpit. That's all this is all about. That lady being thrown across two things. Either she's an idiot or she's an actor.
Well, but listen, look at that though. Even if you're an actor, my God, that had to hurt.
Yeah, but you're getting paid. You know, wrestlers, when they fall from the top rope and they hit the ring, they're getting some money. As long as the pastor say, hey, you know, after you've broken your back, I'll give you a couple of dollars because you don't have a job anyway, right? So you're expecting that you get some money from this con to satisfy whatever economic issue that you have. But this, for the white preacher that is whipping the flock, he's not necessarily asking for their money because the money is there already. That preacher belongs to probably one of the biggest Christian bodies in the world, the Catholic Church or the Anglican Church.
He seems to be enjoying that. Look at him.
Because
oh my God.
He was sent over there to pastor the people. His salary, and depending on how much money he collects every Sunday, his salary is being paid by the Catholic Church. These are station priests. The people are already ripe with the con. They've been prepared like a nice dish. They're susceptible and gullible. They're already done, right? They were done before that pastor came over there to whip them. They were already gone. This is about power. This is about access to women. And like Nnamdi mentioned, we are now the ones doing it to ourselves. This is a way that allows the colonizers to continue to maintain control over us, over the Black community, without the chains on your legs or on your hand. It's right up here. And we will do whatever is necessary to defend the interests of those people that continue to take away our freedom. Africa is not going anywhere if this is what the majority of the people in our African communities globally look like. You can't build a nation on self-hatred, people that see no value in themselves. Have you ever been to church on Sunday and the preacher talked about anything African? Your history, your contribution to civilized behavior? You don't have any educational system that reinforces your self-worth. You don't get it in school. They don't even teach history in Nigeria.
Not anymore. Not our history.
Not our history. That's what I'm saying. They teach you about Mungo Park and Barack Obama, first Black president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, the Queen Elizabeth III, King Henry VIII. But nobody's talking about Shaka Zulu. Nobody's talking about Moshe Shu, Ibn Battuta, Usman Dan Fodio, Sekou Touré. They were great African kings, but what did they profess? They professed Islam. Islam was trading slaves before the European even came to our shores with the Bible. They already had the Quran. Timbuktu is one of the oldest universities in the world, but the university in Timbuktu is Islam. There are no institutions in Africa that talks about our contribution to civilized behavior, not in science, not in history, not in law, not in nothing. All the information that we have right now about what we did in the past, about our history, number one, was research being done by white folks that you don't find in our universities because they don't teach it to us. And also for those people that have the same kind of mindset that we have right now, that have made an effort to research and find out what we were like before we were resocialized, enslaved, or colonized. That's where we're getting it from. But we get it from videos, we get it from books that are written by these individuals, but we do not get it from a structured educational system that fortifies our self-value. So that when you go into school as a child in kindergarten, go through primary school, go through college, graduate and become a young adult, you have been fortified to look upon yourself as a king, as a queen, and say to myself, yes, my ancestors were great. Yeah. If you ask a Black person right now about their ancestors, they can't even tell you anything, nothing at all. So for us to change what's going on with our people right now and build this nation that we desire, it starts with forums like Cheersum Live. It starts with all the people that think the way we do, and then we have to do one thing, and that is to come together under an umbrella and try to figure out a way to create institutions that will be able to tell our story, because we haven't told our story yet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In summary, Namdi?
I agree with everything that you just said. First and foremost, with everything that both of you said. But the one thing that's very key, when the person asks, when the individual that actually asks, okay, what is it that we can do? You're absolutely right. People need to follow forums like this. People need to actually get involved like this. One of the 3 laws of energy is energy is not created nor destroyed. It is simply passed from one thing to the next. Now, the stuff that we're looking at right now is a bunch of generational, dehumanizing, and spiritually crippling energy. But it's been passed from generation to generation to generation to generation. And now you see the exact same thing that has been happening in the past still running rampant, and very successfully, I might add, today. If we want to be able to move from where we're seeing this type of nonsense that we're seeing, number one, we have to be able to follow a structured form, just like the DBS said. We need to be able to follow an organization, a forum, a spiritual body that represents us, that actually puts us not just at the same level as everyone else, but to recognize that who we were from the beginning and understand that we have to be progressive with that movement. We can't keep trying to follow the same stuff that has been occurring from the 30 BC and think that it's actually going to be relevant today. We can follow the tenets and the things that actually help us develop ourselves. And we can take that and we can evolve. The things that are happening right now with this type of stuff are things that have been passed on from generation to generation, and hardly any of it has changed. And with that lack of change comes the lack of giving up power. If it hasn't changed, you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is what they're doing. This is what is happening. The only thing that's actually changed is the nonsense and the individuals that are practicing it more, because they're upholding and continuously pushing the same agenda that has kept us in a place of non-dominion, or kept us in a place of non-power structure. Our power has been removed surgically and has been restructured surgically to make sure that we go from recognizing who we are to recognizing who they are and saying this is who they have always been, which has been over us. They never were. Let's be very clear about that. They never were, never will be, but we are allowing that kind of idea to continuously permeate through our minds and allowing that to actually continue to permeate through the generations. So if we want to change it, we need to be able to follow individuals, follow forums, follow this organization and other organizations like this. And if you are going to follow these other belief systems, then you need to do your research. If I can follow basically everything, if I can search anything that has actually been developed, written, stated, recorded on my cell phone, then you have enough wherewithal and enough intelligence, and you should have enough common sense to be able to look up the same stuff that you are practicing. We're not saying that you can't practice what you want to. We're saying to practice what you see that actually helps to develop you, and get you to who you are and who you should be. If you're going to follow anything, then you should at least follow something that sees you with the same potential, or has already seen you at the same potential as where you came from a powerful place, physically, spiritually, financially, emotionally, psychologically, every single one of those things. And this is what Shiism does. Shiism encourages you, number one, to see who you are spiritually, recognize the power within you spiritually, and say, hey, here's how we can move things in the right direction together. That's one of the things that's killing us. That's one of the things that's crippling us. We are not doing things together because these thought processes, these organizations, these religions are here to divide and conquer. And that's what it's been doing, dividing and conquering. When's the last time you went to a church and they recognized another belief system and said, hey, we still see you as a brother. We still see you as a sister. We still see you as a human being? No. What they're doing is they're finding individuals that will help to keep a specific way of thinking and an agenda going. If they keep the agenda going, then that continues to permeate through the masses and saying, hey, you are not accepted here. You are not this. You are not that. You are not of God. You are not of this. They don't want you to be unified. They don't want you to see who you should be or to recognize that other person and recognizing the godlike creative essence within that individual. So here's what you need to do. You need to follow individuals that are saying you are African. You are melanated. Guess what?
Yes.
There's probably ancestors and spiritual beings that probably look like you. And they gave you every essence of that power. And you should know it. And you should accept it. And you should recognize it. And you shouldn't be ashamed of it. And you shouldn't be kowtowing to any other person that is saying that you're not good enough. Guess what? Chiism tells you you're powerful. Chiism tells you you're good enough. Chiism tells you don't follow something that doesn't allow you to recognize the power within yourself. Guess what? Hop on board, get on the team, get on the squad, recognize what Chiism is, and understand that we are here to help you. Chiism is here to help you. It's here to help you recognize your power within yourself, not to recognize someone else having to instill their power upon you in order for you to continue following them, in order for you to even recognize that you have something within you.
Yeah.
You say,
this is just 30 seconds, and then, you close out the conversation.
Go ahead.
Chiism believes, and then I'm just, here, bravo, brother. Bravo.
Yes, he said.
Chiism believes that every human being looks up to something greater than themselves, and that something is the Almighty God. We believe that every human being has a right to worship God, Chineke, in the way they understand best without bitterness. Most cultures believe in God. Africans believed in Chineke before the European or the Muslim came to our shores with the Bible or the Quran. The problem is not the belief in God, because we believed in Chineke before they came to resocialize, colonize, and enslave.
Right.
It is the process. It is the philosophy. It is the how do I get to God? How do I walk in the footsteps of Chineke? That's where the gullibility comes in. So I just want people to understand that this battle is not about the belief in the Almighty Chineke. It is about which is the best way to get to God. An Abrahamic religion is anchored on one premise and one premise only: my way or the highway, as opposed to what we practice in Chiism, which is biri can biri, live and let live. If we want to build a great nation, if we want to be able to minimize our condition in this world and build a better future for the next generation, for our children, we must look inward and value ourselves.
Thank you very much. Because it's that, see, when we value ourselves, we teach our children to value themselves. And when the children value themselves, generations value themselves, and we become what we're supposed to be. The ancestors are not proud of what's going on right now. They must be turning in their graves, or those that have made it to ancestorhood are really disappointed in what they see. I know I'm disappointed and I'm still here. Ladies and gentlemen, you know,
yeah.
We are very good at talking about other people's way of life, other people's history, but nobody talks about ours. Now, I don't blame those who don't talk about our history. I blame us for not talking about us. If onye na-achọ ka what you seek, so shall you find. The question we must ask ourselves, what exactly are we seeking? Because if we're seeking God, we have to do right by our fellow human beings. Stomping on them, throwing them, hitting them, taking their money, deceiving them, that is not the path to take to God. But if you teach a man how to fish, and you feed him forever. If you teach a man how to be beholden to someone else, you never teach independence. Sometimes what we go through in life, the struggles we go through, it's okay to go through it, because that's how you learn not to do something and what you could do to replace your condition. Somebody just indicated, that's right. Africans do not worship evil gods. This is a Bantu proverb that says, if a man is evil, his God is evil. If his God's evil, he is evil. Any man or woman that does what you all saw on this video is evil, because the God they seek is evil. The God you and I seek is not evil. Monachiso, I am one with the Creator. Now, if you walk with the righteous path, that means that you're walking with righteous Chineke. The most powerful tool in the hands of an oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We need to stop being oppressed, and we need to stop blaming other people for our oppression. At some point, we have to take responsibility. How do we do so? If we see these pastors who are doing something wrong and you're a pastor, speak about it. Don't let it go. You are part of the problem if you see evil and you condone it, or you turn the other way. If your pastor is doing something wrong, tell him you know he's doing something wrong. Have the gall. If God is in you, then the greater power is the God in you, not the one in the pastor, because the one in the pastor is evil if he's doing evil things. It is time for us to grow up mentally. Step away from the cult. These churches are cults. Certainly, if your pastor is doing the right thing and helping his congregation and flourish, he always says. However, if you are in the middle, if you are in a church where you see people being abused, it's time for you to get out of there. Say something. If they don't want to change, then you don't belong there, because guess what? You are as evil as that pastor when you continue to condone what they're doing. Ndebanye. Let me speak in Igbo for those of you who understand. What you do is how they know you. So these pastors, the reason why they're on the video is because they're doing things that are so wrong. Now the world is looking at them not from a positive perspective, but from a negative one. I thank all of you for this wonderful conversation. The good news, of course, is that there are all sorts of people out there who see the evil in some of these pastors, some of these churches. And we will continue to talk about it because we are mandated by the Creator to do so. Chiism is not evil. So Chiism will never see evil and be quiet. I want to thank Matthew Lewis. Thank you so much for joining us. Kwame Anu, thank you. So wonderful. Your wonderful proverbs. And adore, let's see. Come on your heart. Oh, it was so wonderful that you joined us. Woke Di Charles Ugochukwu, Nos Ferratu, and some other people. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful experience, and we're going to have another exciting episode next Sunday. We hope that you join us. And I'm going to say good day to all of you. And